Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, blessings, greetings, everyone, greetings, blessings, blessings. Good morning, greetings to you all and all. Thank you for chiming in and linking in with us this morning on this live stream. We're definitely excited about today, this morning, this brand new day that the Father has made, and in it we're going to rejoice and we're going to be glad in it. My brother in the background just got into the backstage, so we're going to bring him in. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Yes.
Shabbat shalom.
Greetings to you.
Yeah, I'm trying something, so I hooked up the boxes. Is
Okay.
it? Can you hear me clearly, or is there any?
I can hear you. I'm getting a relay on my voice. Let me check my audio.
Okay, I'm trying something with the audio, so that's it.
All right.
So if you can hear me perfectly, then it works. If it didn't work, then I'm going to switch back to the.
I can hear you. I do know the headset. Yeah, I still have this delay.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me try the headset. Maybe it's from my end. I'm gonna try the headset.
Yes, family. Technical difficulties.
It's all in the game.
Yes, it is.
Okay, how is it now?
You sound fine. You sound wonderful. And I'm no longer hearing an echo on my end. Can you hear me?
So I think, yes, clearly.
Okay, so you were the culprit this morning.
Yes. Guilty as charged.
Listen, you must be covered with the pain this morning, man. You're gonna bring in the great, mighty revelation, insight this morning, because you coming in bringing havoc, man. Just as you get on the stream, look at you, man. Like you can't wait. Look at you.
That's it.
How you doing this morning, my brother?
Very good, very well. You know where I live. I live at a place called Well.
And not to be misconstrued with the place called Hell.
No. So the difference between the W and the H is it's astronomical, as we've said.
Astronomical, exactly.
Yeah.
The one thing you just must remember: you mustn't make your soul to sell.
No. So stay at Well, stay away from Hell, and the soul don't sell.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah, so I'm excited this morning, man, about this stream. I don't have a lot of questions in the format, but I do have a lot of scriptures, and so it's going to be interesting. I'm sure, like as we develop the discussion, that the questions will form. I'll think of questions to ask, or it's just be a regular dialogue. We'll definitely pray, usher in the spirit, allow for the Ruach to flow this morning as he see fits. And we just get out the way, man. We decrease as he increase.
That's the Hebrew way.
That's the Hebrew way. Exactly. I don't know whether if Brother Noel, I think he'll be on this morning, and Brother Derek, but we definitely can proceed because it's right now it's 9 minutes after, and we don't want to keep the people delaying. As I look, the people haven't started filling in the community as of yet either. So I guess we can dialogue for now, and yeah. So until then, or we can just open up with a word of prayer. Doesn't matter. So let us. Oh, here we go. Brother D is coming in now. He's coming in now.
Oh, Brother Derek.
Yeah. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, brother. Good morning.
Shalom, shalom. Good morning, brothers.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, how you doing?
Morning, brother Hebrew.
Shabbat Shalom. Nice to finally virtually meet you, Brother Derek.
Yeah, finally, yes. How is everything in Suriname?
Very nice. So, if you mean,
the country as a whole, yeah.
Politically, if we add politics, then the sadness starts.
I got you. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
No.
I understand that. Yeah.
No.
I had a very good friend from school from there. That's why I know I'm familiar with the country a little bit.
Oh, you're familiar with the country. Okay. Usually
I had
people
a classmate about it. Yeah, I know about it. Yes. Definitely.
Okay, nice,
You're neighbor to Guyana.
Yes. And the other side, they called it French Guyana, but it's just France.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Overseas, yes.
It's like a slight little split. Yeah.
Yes.
So you sit on the north. What's that? The northeast? No, the northwest coast of South America.
Just north. Just up north.
I would say probably north.
In the middle.
I would say it looks more like northeast. To me, it looks more like northeast. If you had to pick,
so you're not a coastal state.
You mean where I myself am?
Yeah. Suriname? Is Suriname a coastal? Because I can't think of where it's actually on the map right now.
Yes.
Does it sit on the coast, or it's inland?
Yes, at the top part, or we how do you say this? Our edge is the.
They're like California. They're like California, brother Mike. They're like California. How California is set.
Yes.
You have some sections where it's coastal, and then the rest is like inland. Yeah.
Okay. So partially.
Just yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Partially, yes.
Picture more like Vermont, something like Vermont. It doesn't look too large in the map, but it's like right there. You can miss it.
You can miss it if you don't know it's there. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't know it's there. Yeah.
And I think
what's the population? Yeah, go ahead.
So the population would be, if you only count the people living here, 650,000, something like that.
Oh, okay. So
if you count the people that are overseas, then you pass a bit.
You pass a million. Okay.
And it's from what I hear, we're at least in the top 3 most green countries. A lot of forests.
Oh, really? A lot of forests.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of forests. So that's
it's more.
Okay, could you repeat?
You know why you probably didn't? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead. So you're not. So would you say that it's a part of the? Yeah, everyone. We're having a geographical learning experience this morning.
Yes.
Our dear brother Hebrew Rapperholic is taking us on a tour of the nation of Suriname. All right. So,
yes.
Okay. Is it tropical at all, or is just forest?
It's
about that.
It's tropical. It's completely tropical. We don't get winter at all. It's just tropical. Okay. It's like summer the whole year.
Right.
So it's hot, and then it's extra hot, and then just normal hot. Just like that.
Yeah.
You know why? Something that comes to my mind. I think the reason we don't hear about it too much is because there's a country that predominantly is very what you would say to be politically correct, very chocolate and very indigenous, 2 parts. That's what I would view that country as. I don't know if Hebrew Rapperholic could chime in a little bit on that. It's like more of a chocolate country, chocolate nation.
Yes, not
predominantly.
Not white. not
with
Europe.
either chocolate
Although,
or indigenous. Those two aspects, yeah.
yes, there are a lot of indigenous, but there's a lot of people. You would say you would call it excuse me, the word is civilized. So there's a lot of Western influence. A
Hmm.
lot of Western
Okay.
influence. Yes,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
and
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
for better or worse on either
hmm.
side.
Yeah. Yeah. It has its good, but
And it,
surely it has its bad. Right. Yeah.
yeah, yes. Because the thing when I go on YouTube and hear people complaining, it's the same experiences here a little bit. I hear also and on the in the West
Hmm.
experiencing. So
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. 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 So you experience like sort of the residual effects of what goes on here in the U.S.
yes, I don't know to what extent because I'm not in the US to know how it's there. I just
Yeah.
hear the complaints and see it, hear it
Right.
with in my own life.
Right. 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 Well, the most important thing is you found your way. You found the way. So,
So speaking of Western influence, I guess that's how the Bible might have gotten here. So that's the better part, and then the worst part would be
Ministries,
negative.
probably. Yeah.
yeah, yes, yes. If that's as if that's if you didn't have a percentage of people there who were already Hebrew anyway.
So I'm not aware of any.
Right. You know,
I'm
right,
not aware
right,
of.
right, right.
There are camps, but when you say Hebrew, what do you mean? Do you mean someone
Well,
calling themselves Hebrew or an actual so he's living Hebrew?
well, before the transatlantic slave trade, um, you know, it is known, and granted, you're right next to Guyana. Um, uh, Irvin Van Sertima, in his findings, about Columbus and about before they came, and archaeological research, the I think it's called the Almix. Um, you know, there was a lot of travel from native Africans to the North and South and American and even Caribbean continent and islands. So there was a lot of travel. So there,
Yes.
Africans were already traveling here. You know, it was just something that was new to Europeans, and so a lot
Oh,
of the
okay.
tradition. That's why you look at the tribal culture. It resembles, even the Aztecs. They have the pyramids. Where do they get that from? You
Yes,
get what I'm
yes,
saying? So there
yes,
was
yes.
already African influence that was already here prior to the transatlantic slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade is still relatively new. You're talking about 500-600 years ago. But prior to
Yes.
that, there was travel that was already going back and forth. The thing is that navigation was relatively new to the Europeans before embarking on the slave trade. Like, they were taught by the Moors how to use navigational systems in order to be able to travel. you know and so and you're talking about coming out of the dark ages. And so yeah, certainly, you had African influence. So there's a good chance, remember, Israel was scattered, going back. You're talking about the seventh century BCE. um there's a possibility that there was Hebrew influence that was already there. That's the point that
Yes.
I'm making.
So with what you said, I'm thinking that yes, yes, that even till now, but the Western influence is even in the indigenous part becoming bit strong. It's prevailing. Let's say it like that. It's becoming more
It's
prevalent.
prevailed, yeah, because of the
Yes,
conquest, right?
yes,
But prior to the conquest, you're talking about amongst the natives. You can
yes,
clearly see a lot of African tribal customs.
Yes.
You know,
The one thing I use to measure it is the fact that a man can have more than one wife. The video,
polygyny.
if it's
That's
or
one.
not.
That's
And
one. I
yes,
mean, that's one.
yes.
Yeah,
And
definitely
before
that.
they had no problem with a man having more than one woman, but now, even
Mhm,
now, if you go as
mhm,
far as you want
mhm,
into the woods, they little by
mhm.
little are starting to have a problem with that. Actually
Right,
forcing men to stick with one
right,
woman. So that's how
right.
I can never.
There was a missionary. Um, I think his name is Colenso, and in the 1800s, and he kept like a diary and so forth and whatnot. He also made an appeal to the headquarters in Europe because of the treatment towards the natives here in the so-called quote unquote New World. And one of the things that he and other missionaries observed was that the natives were more Christian than the Christians. You know, they dwelt
Yes.
peaceful amongst each other. They shared, they gave their last,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
were
yeah.
kind. They provided for their family. They took care of their families,
They
right?
had the spirit of
Yeah. So the
Christianity.
spirit was
Yeah.
was already it was noticed. You know, the only disdain was the fact. Well, the main disdain was the fact of the skin color. You know, and they were not Catholic. You know, the main disdain was them also not being Catholic, but the polygyny aspect. And these were reasons, and then they covered it. They covered it what they had. They wanted their land. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that was where the visceral and the hatred really came from, and what they were taught doctrinally from the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant churches. So it's not, there is testimony, in terms of the conquerors noticing the goodness. That's how they were even able to take advantage of them, because they were so naive in many regards. Um, because as a people, they generally were kind-hearted. Yeah, they had their tribal wars. Yeah, they fought against each other. Yeah, they were brutal towards each other, just like any other groups of people of humanity. Look, Cain slew Abel, right? That goes all the way back to the beginning.
Yes.
But there was a level of peace and harmony amongst the people within a particular tribe that the Europeans in their testimonies did not see in Europe.
So
Mhm.
were they jealous? No, not just the land, but were they jealous of their way of life? Could that also
Well, I just think that it's more so it's just the love of money is the root of all evil, which we're going to be getting into today. But I mean,
okay.
it's just really just covered in what the people had and what they wanted, you know,
But
and
that's my question.
the idea of a sense of superiority.
No, but that's my
I'm
question. Is the peace, were they coveting the peace itself? Like I want.
well, yeah. I mean, I mean, there is historical accounts like here where you've had what we call Black Wall Streets. So, in the 20s, all throughout the United States, there were these black townships that developed coming out of slavery, where blacks, migrated to coming out of slavery, post Civil War, and they had to stick together. They created a communal homestead and a way of living. And in creating these ways of living, they flourished and they prospered. They couldn't depend on the whites and the neighboring whites. They couldn't live amongst the whites. And they had to depend on each other for protection. And many of these cities flourished. And the historical account going back to the 1920s, many of these cities were burnt down, destroyed out of envy and
Okay.
jealousy, right? Out of envy
Yeah.
and jealousy, because you know the people who were, how would you say, had the most power, or had the power within the country, within the nation. There were many of them that were poor. And so
Excuse.
looking at how is it that these black people are flourishing and they're so prosperous. Like, you know, in Oklahoma, they had like their own airstrip, airplanes, they had the fire department, they had their own schools, they had you know, they had their own banks. There was even there were white establishments that actually were borrowing money from these towns.
From the black man. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they were actually borrowing money from these towns, and so
So this
um, mhm.
no, I was gonna say this sounds like Cain and Abel. So instead of asking Abel, how are you doing this, you just kill him.
Right, you just
Instead
kill
of
them. So
learning from him, kill him.
right, instead of learning from them, and again, it's you're talking about the conqueror, uh, conquistador, imperialistic mindset. You know, where you know rather than me just try to, you know, in a harmonious way, try to glean and learn from you, right? I'm just gonna take what you got.
Yes.
So, you know, it's like in the ghetto, man. You know, you got a nice pair of sneakers on, man. Yo, I'm just gonna take what you got.
I'm just gonna say.
Take what you got, man.
Oh
You know what
wow.
I'm saying?
So what you're saying is that these conquerors had a ghetto mentality. I agree with that.
In a lot of ways, because
They have a ghetto mentality.
in a lot
I
of ways,
agree
I
with
mean, because if you really think about it, the the thing that fueled it is the dysfunction that existed already in Europe.
in them. Yes.
Talking about not too long coming out of um, depression, oppression, plague, you know, you know, immense, horrible conditions. And now you have this ambition, you have this drive, you've accessed technology, the gun, the gunpowder, how to navigate a ship. You know what I'm saying? And then you have this system of religion in what is called the Roman Catholic Church that in and of itself is rooted in imperialism because it's the Roman Empire, you know, conjoined with a religious institution. So,
Yes.
you know, with all of that, you have this ambition towards, you know, taking other people's things. You know, so you know, with the technology and all of that stuff, now you could just go wherever you want to go and you just bully people.
Yes. And
That's just
then
basically what it is.
yes. And it's they're walking around
you're you're you're
all
you're
high and
you're
mighty
you're
and
you're,
and
you're, you're echoing out. We just let's give you, you know, you're buffering for a moment. All right, could you say that again, please, brother?
so I was saying they're in their own country feeling high and mighty. They're the state,
Living their
the
life.
highest.
Yeah, living their way of
And now
life.
they come, but now they come to the indigenous, and they are actually at more peace, prospering even more. So the envy clicks in, the jealousy it
Yeah,
clicks in.
and they had resources, but again, you're talking about a people that already came with the intentions of
Yes, yes,
you
plundering
understand, looking for opportunity,
the
looking for
ghettos, the
land,
ghettos.
looking for resources, right? So they already had that inside their mind. They didn't come to build an alliance. They didn't come to gain friends.
They
They
didn't
came.
come in peace.
No, they didn't come in peace. They had
Yes,
ill intentions.
they didn't come in peace.
They had, and the crazy thing is, you know, many were fleeing from their own persecutions. You know, their own how would you say, poverty situations and mistreatments. And so now you go to this other place and you see these other people in their own system, whether it be harmonious or not. But you know, you're looking to find, and it's the crazy thing is that we have here in the United States the Declaration of Independence. And this is the colonies. There were 13 colonies that were uh, under the authority of Britain, the crown. And so the colonists at a certain point got tired of being taxed. This tax is just another form of slavery. And Shabbat Shalom to you, brother Aki Manalo. You know,
Shabbat
we
shalom,
engaged,
brother
Shalom,
Manalo.
shalom, brother Manalo.
we engaged in the
We're
conversation,
we're
man. I ain't forget
globetrotting.
about
We're globetrotting now.
yeah, we're talking about the world we live in. Yeah, so
Yes.
and so they got tired of being oppressed. They got tired of being enslaved because imperialism is slavery on a national level. You know, it's different from a person's body being owned. It's now a person's nation being owned.
Nation. Yeah.
Right. And it's just slavery on a political level. Right. And so that's really what you had going on. It's you know, the colonists were slaves to the British Empire and they wanted to be free. And so with that they formed a coup, they formed a rebellion. You know, they resisted and that jumped off the Revolutionary War. And then there was a declaration that they made, which is called the Declaration of Independence. And the crazy thing is that they're talking about wanting to be free and talking about a God-given right to be free, but had the intentions at the same time to suppress and
Enslaved.
keep black people who fought in the war to help gain that freedom.
Do you think
which
it's
is
fear?
crazy. Huh? Well,
Do you
I
think
mean,
it's fear?
again, it just takes us back to Cain and Abel. And it is fear, because what was the initial response, in sin, in the state of sin, is to be afraid and hide
To
yourself.
be afraid. Yes.
Right.
So the
You
fear
know.
of the black man becoming too strong to chop
Well,
off
I
his
don't know.
legs.
I don't know whether it's necessarily fear of the black man as much as it is not being content and in peace and shalom within oneself. Again,
Oh, okay.
we know that Roman Catholicism's, we've talked about this in the previous streams recently, that it's rooted in paganism. It is not rooted. Look, Yeshua taught his disciples, if it truly is something that is birthed and spawned and moved by the spirit of Yahweh, Yeshua said this to his disciples when he sent them out 2 by 2. If they don't accept the message that you give to them, what did he tell them to do? Shake the dust off your feet and go to the next town.
Go to the next.
He didn't say pick up arms. He didn't say pick up a sword. He didn't say force them, beat them into conversion. He didn't do that. But that's not what the Roman Catholic Church did. Roman Catholic Church, instituted from Augustine period on in the 4th century, 5th century, 4th century, this idea of beating people, punishing people, jailing people, executing people if they don't follow the church's doctrine. And that was never taught by the apostles, and that was never taught by Yeshua himself.
You can't beat someone into heaven.
You can beat somebody into heaven. You can't. It has to be the free will of their heart, surrendering of their heart, not compulsion. Not compulsion. Not compulsion. And so, and it just lets you know of the pagan heart of the Roman Catholic Church did not bear the heart of our Messiah. It didn't. It still doesn't. It still to this day, it still doesn't. And so if it did, and if it truly does, then it will repent for all of what it caused. Think about it, man.
But I think that's why they continue, because they also may be in too deep, like what we spoke about yesterday. They're just in too deep. So to repent now makes no sense.
Of course,
well,
the cost of repentance and restoration is too tall, too high, for their lack of humility, because humility is what leads a person to repentance. And so,
but then you have to get off your high horse. You
have to get off your high horse, right?
Head honcho,
look, the way up is down.
In this case, especially, yes.
right? But they don't want to get down. They don't want to get down
No, the horse is too nice. So I think they're gonna ride the horse until it dies.
until it died. And it's
That's
possible the
it.
Roman Catholic Church to this day owns the most real estate than any government in the world.
The
Why?
most real estate.
Real estate, because there's more parishes that exists throughout the world than any other religion.
Seriously.
Mhm. Think about the schools, the churches, right? The properties, the homes, right? The cemeteries, you know,
Seminaries, aka
cemeteries, right?
cemeteries.
Right. You know, that's owned by RCC. And so, yeah, and you're talking about there is not a continent,
Where they're
and there
not.
is likely not a nation other than maybe some of the Middle Eastern nations where they don't exist.
They're doing their best to get something going. Even
You
there.
said they're doing their best to do what?
To get their religion in
The
the
Catholic
Eastern countries. Yes.
Yeah, of course, yeah. You know, they're making
Yes.
their efforts, but the reality is that um it is what it is, man. You can't really change. You listen, you know your brethren by the fruit they bear. You know the false prophets by the fruit they bear. And again, if they really had a true heart of repentance, um Jonathan the Baptist said this. He said that you had to bear fruits of repentance. If you're truly repenting, you have to bear fruits of repentance. What does that mean? That means you have to stop doing the wrongful deeds that's causing the damage, and you have to do restoration. You have to pay back what you listen. You and I likely can't each, neither of us can tell. And Brother Deep, by the way, we can't tell you who our fourth and fifth grandparents were. We can't tell you what their names were. We can't tell you what language did our family speak. We don't know the culture and the heritage that we descend from. You know, you're all the way in Suriname. We're in G and I are in New York. How did we get here? You know what I'm saying? Like, and so this is a result of what the Roman Catholic Church started. Like, we're living results of their sin, of their we're living results of the fruit of their sin.
Can I add one more thing there, brother
Yes,
Mike?
Yes.
With regarding the Suriname being that I mentioned, I had a good friend of mine in school from there. I will attach this to it. There's a lot of Maroons that settled there also in that country. So the Maroons were actually more from the Dutch side of things when you're speaking about the slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
So the Maroons were actually they settled in Suriname also. So it's a little bit of Dutch history in the country itself also.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah,
Dutch.
those are the indigenous ones I spoke about. The Maroons.
Correct.
The Maroons.
Yes.
Yeah, the Maroons. Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
But
the
they
Indians,
were
so those two.
But they were
But they
influenced.
from black. But they from black. They're known to be from enslaved African or black people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So
They're
that's more
actually
from
the
the
ones who
Dutch. That's
fought.
from the Dutch side. Yeah, Dutch side.
Yes. They're the ones who fought to get slavery abolished here. They're the ones who actually win
There you go.
in
There you go.
plunders
Yes.
and
Right.
stuff like that. Yes.
Right.
This was attaching that to brother Mike. Diaspora.
They were
explanation.
the Buffalo Soldiers of Suriname.
Yes. And the strange thing, they are now looked down upon. So the people
of
that
course,
live in the
yeah.
city look down on them, but they're the ones who got us.
and
So
and again,
flipped around.
that is the effect of the same spirit that conquered the land still exists, because one of the tools that the system began with and still continues to use is the propaganda of racism. The
As if it exists.
propaganda,
Yes.
right, and despising, like you said, native peoples, indigenous peoples, right, of the lands that they actually conquered. Look
Yes.
how the Aborigines are treated in Australia.
Correct.
Subhuman treatment. Yes.
Subhuman, exactly. So I mean, it goes on and on and on, man. The level of damage that the Roman Catholic Church is responsible for, even still up to this day, and then to in a hypocritical, deceptive way tries to present itself as actually being holy, an institution of Yeshua. It's blasphemous.
Yes. It's blasphemous.
It's blasphemous because this is clearly not his heart. It's clearly not his heart. But yeah, we can definitely go on and on and on. So I'm gonna ask Brother D if he'd be so kind to open us up in a word of prayer.
Okay, no problem. Good morning. Once again, Brother Mike, Brother Evil. Let me see if I can pronounce your name. I always have difficulty with it. Rapperholic, right?
Yeah, like rap music.
Yes,
Not a problem. Thanks.
Yes.
Our brother Manolo and anybody who watches us today, you gotta get in prayer there. Thank you, Lord, for bringing all the brothers together to discuss your word, Lord. Thanks for bringing us safely from the week that we have had. Rough week. Some of us who are dealing with crazy weather, from snow to storms and other things like that. Lord, bless the side of where Brother Rapperholic is from, because we know the political turmoil happening with his neighbor country between Venezuela and also with Guyana, that it doesn't affect that area, that it bring peace to us. Bring peace to us, that the discussion that we have today also that is okay and brought in excellence to your side, and that we express not how we feel, but the word that you want us to share with everyone today. Amen.
Amen. I do have another question with that too. Like right now, we have in the United States, we have this huge problem with our president, our beloved president, Joe Biden, opening the gate of the borders. And so we have this huge influx. Now it's estimated about 10 million immigrants, illegal immigrants, have entered, and they're now moved all around the country in the cities. And so with that being the case, I know that a number of these immigrants, illegal immigrants, have traveled as far as from Venezuela. So I wanted to know from you, is there any chatter that you could speak to in terms of people that you know of that may either been passing through Suriname by any chance, or do you know any people from Suriname, or have heard of people from Suriname, trying to walk to the United States? Brother Rapperholic.
Yes. Yes. So I can't give you the numbers exactly, just things I hear. So people would like to, but they're more inclined to go into the Netherlands or Belgium. It's a bit more difficult to get to the US from here. It's possible, but it's a bit more difficult. They usually go to Netherlands, Belgium actually, and then they move from there. Maybe from there on they can try to get to the US. But if you're speaking about people trying to get here, that also I think it would be easier. So if you say he opened the border, we kind of never had borders. I just think this country is not so well known as the US, so maybe we don't have that many people coming here.
Right.
People coming here, yes, that's been happening a lot, and people trying to go away, that's been happening a lot. That's, as I said, almost half of this population is away, has left Suriname.
Right.
So
Right.
a lot of people trying to get away. So you could be talking to someone today, and tomorrow he went to the Netherlands. He's gone.
So I got you. So it's more transient. It's like a transient
So if
They're
population.
fleeing. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, transient meaning like it's not a constant population. You have people that come and go, but really you're more so speaking to people that just leave.
Mostly.
Mm-hmm.
No, gone. They're not coming back.
They're
No
not coming
plans of
back.
coming back.
Okay.
Is
Wow.
mostly the reason why economy is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. 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 It's understandable.
Corruption.
that's interesting how they going back to
Corruption
their
plagues
Dutch history there. That's what they're trying to head back to, you know.
They go back to the slave master.
There
Yeah,
you go. They go back to the Dutch. There you go.
Yeah.
back to the ghetto.
Yeah.
They go back to the ghetto.
Right.
No wonder the national team over there from Netherlands keeps looking a little bit more colory.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
not-
Yes.
looking more like Egypt now.
Yeah, the
Now
national
they
team
go.
looking a little bit interesting.
They go back to
there.
Egypt. They go back to Egypt. Exactly back to Egypt.
Hi. Well,
So they do
okay.
complain because it's a different situation, but they don't come back. So it's financially
Mm.
better, but on other fronts, it's a bit more headache. But they probably weigh the cost and then they just stay.
Mm.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. We had a good history talk here in the preliminary. All right.
God created
So-
the heaven and the earth. So we talked about the
And the earth. Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. So this morning's topic, which we haven't really even gotten to yet, we've already had good conversation. This morning's topic, we were bouncing around ideas, brother Rapaholic and I, and we decided to touch on the topic, and let me pull it up on the screen. Is the narrow way a way of poverty? Is the narrow way a way of poverty? And so obviously when we're talking about the narrow way, we're obviously talking about the way of Yah, the way to Yah, the way of the kingdom, the way to the kingdom, right? Is that way, is that path, right? Is that journey, is that way, is that path, that is it a narrow path of poverty, right? That's the question. Is the narrow way, which is what Yeshua called this path, this walk, this life in the kingdom, to the kingdom, of the kingdom, he called it a narrow way. He called it a narrow path, which we're going to read that parable. But is the narrow way a way of poverty? And that's what we want to kind of answer today, in this stream this morning. Is the narrow way a way of poverty? We asked the question in different ways. And here's another way. Is the way of riches a broader way or a narrow way? Is the way of riches a broader way or a narrow way? Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody dreams of being rich. Everybody dreams of, accumulating a lot, having a lot, to be able to come and go and do and get whatever it is that you want, you decide you want, to your heart's content, right? Everyone thinks of living a life like that, especially who have never lived a life like that, right? Is that way the broader way or the narrow way? All right. And then the third way we ask this question is, does poverty lead to righteousness in Yah? Does poverty lead to righteousness in God? In God. Does poverty lead to righteousness in God? So to help us out, we want to definitely start off by reading Yeshua's parable of this narrow path, right? We want to read the parable, and it's in two different accounts. So we're going to look at Matthew 7:13-14, and then
Could you excuse me for a second?
Yes, sir.
Could you excuse me for a 2nd?
Mhm.
I need to do something. Just a second.
Yeah, go ahead and do your thing. yeah, brother D. So
Great, beautiful topics, and well, a lot of brainstorming I can see in the questions and stuff. Yeah, very
yeah, man,
solid, very good.
it's I mean, listen, this like again,
Just
and
keeps getting better. You
yeah, I mean,
know?
I know you and I have talked about topics,
Of course.
definitely, we covered um uh suggestions of topics. So those of you who are viewing and looking in, streaming in with us, if a topic comes to mind or there's a subject that you want us to touch on and discuss, don't hesitate to send. Matter of fact, we ask you to send in your ideas, something that you want for us to talk about. We generally on Shabbat morning Bible Dig, we tend to try to deal with topics that are gender neutral, even though we still tend to lean on over to more dealing from a masculine perspective. But we want the topics on the Shabbat morning Bible Dig to encompass blessing the entire family. So that's the reason for these type of topics. Like now on Monday evenings, we do the Masculinity Mondays, and we know that that is specific to men, and so that's a space specific to men. So in this space, in the Shabbat morning Bible Day, that's why we want to deal with topics that are more broader, more general, that not only apply to men but apply to the entire family. And so that's so if you send in a suggestion, definitely we ask if you think of a topic, try to think of a topic that pretty much relates to the broader family. And I know we've talked about feminism here, we've talked about makeup and so forth and whatnot, but generally we want to stay as much as we can, as close as we can, to dealing with everyone. What do you say, brother D?
I definitely agree. That's great because it makes us be more in how the Lord wants us to be in order, to do things in an orderly fashion. So we've dedicated a specific days for to target things and other days to cover other things.
Yes,
You know,
yes. Be well rounded,
very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the brainstorm we're doing behind the scenes also from the different brothers' ideas also brings forward what you mentioned. Iron sharpening iron. Give us some more ideas, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
met the content and also the conversation much richer.
Right. And the other thing too with that is like what is the significance of having a live stream, right? Yeah, all right. What is the significance of having a weekly live stream, that is dedicated to, sending out these messages, um, discussing topics, to and for the viewer, for the people, but yet we never really take into consideration what is it that specifically that the people want to talk about, what is
Exactly
that the people want to hear, and so or what questions do the people have, and that's the thing. So we definitely covered you, the viewing audience, your questions on topics. Send them in. Matter of fact, let me put my email address up. Send in your topics that you would love to have us discuss. I'm gonna have it streaming at the bottom. That's my email address. Topics that you would want us to cover here on Shabbat morning Bible Dig, that can bless the whole family. And because this is for us. This is for the kingdom, and that's why we're here. So with that said, we're gonna get into these passages. So the first one is Matthew 7. I already have it up, so let me just draw in the. Here we go. All right, so Matthew 7, right? And then the next one will be in Luke 13:22 after that. So let me just take this off so we'll have more space on the screen. And then we can see Brother D's avatar. We don't want to block his avatar. He worked so hard to put that avatar together. You know what I mean? We want to
oh boy,
much showing off. That's the good side too, because you can have a bad side, you can have a good side. His avatar is always his good side.
Always good. Always the good side.
All right. Here we go. All right. So he says, enter through the gate. Matter of fact, let me enlarge the screen a little bit more. So if you guys that are looking on a cell phone, you can see even better. All right. So that is all right. Here we go. He says, enter through the gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction. And there are many who enter through it. For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. Question, gentlemen. What is a gate? What's a gate? It's a gate. And those of you listening, definitely
Okay.
Chime into the discussion.
For me, a gate will be a structure that's avoided, and also for you to be able to select who enters.
Okay.
Like if you were going to a type of club kind of stuff, or you have a bouncer and they say, can you come through that, form a line to get through or not get through.
Okay. So
even that you qualify, what type of people you're going to allow or not allow in.
Yeah. That is called reserve the right to be selective. Right.
There you go.
Right. So that's the purpose of the gate. The gate is so that you can have control on who's coming in versus who's going out. Right. That's the purpose of the gate. Do we agree? We all agree on that definition? Brother Rappaholic, you agree on that?
100%. 100%.
So that's the purpose of the gate. And as we said earlier, if President Joe Biden had kept the gate closed, we would not have this problem that's going on here in the U.S. Right? So that's the purpose of a gate.
So
right?
So can I add to it?
Yes.
So a gate is a way to protect from headache, in a sense.
It's a way to protect from headache. You said, right?
Yes, future headache. So future problems.
Exactly.
So keep the bad things
or
out.
Threat.
And in
Listen,
the future, you don't have
threat to life.
threats.
Right. So yeah, I mean, the gate is very important in an evil, sinful world. It's very important. So so for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction. So destruction is the destination here that he's talking about. And he says the gate to that is wide. It's a wide open gate. It's not a slim narrow gate, but it's a wide open gate, right? So, and then he says, and there are many who enter through it. So because the gate is wide, right? Then that means that there's more opportunity for more people to get through it at one time. Right? You guys agree? You see that, right? So then in the second part, he says, for the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. So now, if the way to life, right, is narrow, right, that leads to life is narrow, and there are few that find it, what is he really contrasting here between these two types of gate, the narrow gate versus the broad gate? Break that down for me, brothers.
The metaphor that I'm seeing here is that the wider gate is more of the world, allowing anything to go, anything to be accessible, anything to be said, anything to be done. And it's like at times where you have places of gathering where they say everybody is welcome. Yes, everybody is welcome, but certain aspects and certain changes need to be made before you can be welcome in, or you got to be trying to make changes, not continue doing what you're doing. And the narrow way is much more being more focused
Mhm.
and precise in what you're trying to do.
Exactly. I would definitely rock with that. I definitely agree with that.
Yes.
What do you say, brother Rapper?
Excuse me. So when I listen to the two gates, building on what Brother Derek has said, when I listen to the two gates, I'm hearing, so they're not literal gates. It's a metaphor.
Right.
Do you get me? Order and chaos. Because if it's a
Yeah,
narrow
yeah, yeah,
gate,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
have to
yeah,
stand in
yeah.
line.
You have to stand in line, and there's less
You
people
have
that
to
can
stand
enter
in
through
line.
the gate. Right.
Yes.
Right, and there's less
At
people that can
once.
enter through the gate at one given
Yes.
time. Right.
At once.
Hmm.
Yes. So that it depends on how
Hmm.
small the gate is. But if I'm gonna guess it as small as one person at a time. So you have to
Hmm.
stand in line. You can't just
Right.
all
Right.
barge in at once. But the broad gate,
Right.
everyone can barge in. It's a free for all. It's complete
Right. Right.
chaos. You don't know who's
Right.
going in. You don't know who's going back. People can trample at
Right.
that point. Babies
Right.
can be thrown
Right.
aside. It's all chaos.
Right. And so the what is the theology, or what is the breakdown, would you guys say, of the distinction between life and destruction here that he's talking about? What does he mean
Order
by
and chaos
destruction,
again.
and what does he mean by order and chaos, right?
Order and
What
chaos.
else is
Chaos can
represented by
only lead to
destruction? What else is
destruction.
right? But what else is represented by destruction, and what else is represented by life? If we go back to the very beginning, right? There was a commandment that was given to humanity in reference to life and in reference to destruction.
Okay, you mean the first commandment? Be fruitful
Yeah,
and multiply?
one of the very first commandments, right? In the beginning, right? That commandment was in reference to life, and it was in reference to destruction.
Oh, so to not multiply would lead to destruction. Is that what you mean?
Not to that part, not to that commandment. I'm talking about the commandment of what the man could have access to versus what he couldn't have access to.
You mean the tree of
Because there
life
was right. So you and versus the
and
tree
the
of
tree
knowledge
of
and good and
knowledge?
evil.
Yeah,
And no,
yeah.
no, the tree of knowledge of good and evil versus the tree of life and everything else he had access to.
Yes.
Because it's not
There were
just the tree of
thousands
life.
of trees.
Right. Yeah, he in other
Yeah,
words, now we're talking about
yeah.
abundance, right? We're talking about abundance versus lack.
And he chose the leg. Yeah.
And he chose the lack. Right. He chose the lack. So that gives us an idea here, because what did he say in terms of that commandment in reference to those trees, those two trees? What did y'all say to the man in reference to those trees? What was the specific commandment that he gave?
So don't eat it, and if so, the day you eat of it, you will die.
You will die. So there were conditions based on it that was placed on these
Yes.
commandments, right? And these provisions. He gave a provision that enabled them to have access to every tree, right? Including the tree of life, right? So he had a provision of abundance as long as he did what? He stayed in obedience,
Not
right?
eat from that tree.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
disobedience
And
became sort of a disobedience became a gate to uh disobeying and then
death.
eventually
Yes.
leading to destruction. Right.
Death.
Right.
Yes.
So you were gonna
And
say
the
something
tree of
else?
the and the tree of life was next to the tree of knowledge. So it's not
Right.
far
They
from.
were next. Right. What does that say? That says that the
Yes.
the 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 gate to life and the gate to destruction can be very close to each other
Yes.
in proximity. So in other words, isn't it a thin line between going from one to the other?
Is it love and hate? Yes.
It's
Yes.
right, exactly. It's just a matter of a decision.
Excuse me.
It's a
Yes.
matter of a
It's
decision.
that easy actually.
I, I would look at it as the same thing as when you're driving and you have a choice to make, which road you're gonna take, the left road or the right road.
Right. Right.
You know, sometimes the right road might look very smooth, you know, but it's
Right.
not necessarily the right road.
Right. Or it may be, you know, a road where you see all the traffic going down that route. But
Correct.
there's a little small road that really is going to take you to your destination.
Yes.
But if you get caught
It
up
has a
with
lot of
following the
holes,
crowd,
potholes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, again, just want to remind everyone what today's topic is. Today's topic is the narrow way a way of poverty. So one of the things that we talked about in our formulating this topical idea for us to have discussion this morning is the idea of wealth, abundance, or wealth versus poverty. And you know, we wanted to know which one more so aligns with wealth and which one more so aligns with poverty. Is wealth aligned more so with the broader path or the narrow path, or the broader gate or the narrow gate? And um, does poverty align more with the broader gate or the narrow path, or the broader path, or the broader path, or the narrow gate or the narrow path? In other words, which one aligns with what more? So when we look at the world around us, right? Is it safe to say that most people are on a path that not only is broad, right? Because when you talk about most people, you're talking about a broader entrance, a broader gate. Are most people on a path to wealth, or most people are in a path leading to poverty?
So judging from this, judging from this parable, following the most people is the way to destruction. If you
Is
wanna,
the way to destruction, right?
yeah, if you wanna take it from another direction.
And that's the other point: is wealth a path that is consistent or conduit with destruction, or is wealth a path that is consistent or conduit with life? Is life and wealth running on the same path, or life and poverty running along the same path?
I'm gonna say wealth and life on the same path as long as you understand that you can have no other gods before him, including the
Mm,
wealth.
mm, mm. I mean, clearly, if we talk about going back to the garden, did Yahweh establish Adam to start off in wealth, or did he establish him to start off in poverty?
Absolute wealth.
Right. And
Absolute
what was
wealth. All the
and what
gold, the oil, the trees,
right. So
all the
and what was
land,
the
it was all him.
right and so what was the condition of maintaining that status of wealth?
So it's simple. Do not eat from that tree. That's the most simple thing to not do.
Right, right,
Just
right.
don't eat from the tree. That's
Even
it. So, brother
even
Mike, it doesn't
yes,
matter
sir.
how hard we work.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I was gonna say, it doesn't matter how hard we work. This thing for him.
Because
Did you
you're
get me?
freezing up. You're freezing up. All right. So the thing that we really caught was it doesn't matter how hard you work. What are you saying?
Yes. It doesn't matter how hard you work. You can't get richer than Adam. He had all the gold, all the oil,
Hmm.
everything was all his.
The whole world.
The whole world was his at that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
how rich he was.
That's how rich he was. Right.
He
Right.
was extremely wealthy.
He was extremely wealthy. Right. Right. And the condition was obedience. Right. Is it safe to say?
Obedience.
Yeah, the condition was obedience.
Safe
The
to say,
gate,
very safe.
yeah, the gate is either obedience or disobedience.
And they're right
So
next to each other. That's
they're
the.
right next to each other. And
I
so it's
think
just
that's that's what the trees.
yes, it's just an option. Let's look at the other account. Let's look at Luke's account. Luke, that's Luke 13, verse 20. Hold on a second. 13, 22. Luke 13:22 says, and he was passing through from one city and village to another, teaching and proceeding on his way to Jerusalem. And someone in the end, let me take this banner off. And someone said to him, Lord, are there just a few who are being saved? And he said to them, strive to enter through, because this whole parable is based on what? Somebody wanting to know, is there going to be a lot of people saved, or is there going to be a few people saved? Right? That's the nature of what spawned him to teach on this parable. And so this is what he says. He says, strive to enter through the narrow door. For many, I tell you, will seek to enter and will not be able. So there's something that's going to prevent many from being able to enter through the narrow door. It's called narrow because few enter through it, right? So he says this: once the head of the house gets up and shuts the door, and you begin to stand outside and knock on the door, saying, Lord, open up to us, then he will answer and say to you, I do not know where you are from. Then you will begin to say, we ate and drank in your presence. We went to church. We fellowshipped, right? And you taught in our streets. And he will say, I tell you, I do not know where you are from. Depart from me, what? All you evildoers. So disobedience is the thing that makes one accessible. So in other words, obedience is your VIP pass. Obedience is your ticket in through the gate. Right? It says, in that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of Yahweh, but yourselves being thrown out. And they will come from the east and west and from north and south and will recline at the table in the kingdom of Yahweh. So in other words, there's going to be a lot of people there, but there's going to be a whole lot more people, right? Even more so, that are not going to be able to make it in. And he says, and behold, some are last who will be first, and some are first who will be last. So what do you think he means by some are last who will be first, and some are first who will be last?
Would Brother Derek like
Take a crack.
Yes.
Sure, not a problem. How I see that first, someone would be last, would be first. I would say with sometimes people who are in organized religions of any kind, of any class, feel that because they have grown up all their life within that institution, they feel like they know it all. They're able to recall different verses. They're able to know which prayer to say, but they have not had a true connection with God. And many times someone who is in the world, their experience of seeing what the world is, and they have a true change of heart and a true change of humility and rendition and submission to the Lord. I feel that's who he's speaking about. Those who we believe, oh, they would no way would make it in because they look how they're carrying on themselves. Or sometimes the struggle and the change that they're having with the Lord, we're not seeing that. And we'd be surprised those who actually make that change and they get the VIP room and we still stay out there standing, thinking we automatically have it already made.
I like that. I like that breakdown, brother. What do you think on that, Brother Rapperaholic? He's got a delay.
Exactly
Can
what I
you
was
hear?
thinking.
Yeah, yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah. I can hear you now. Yeah, you
Can
definitely
you?
got a delay as you
Okay.
come out. Yeah. Are you muting and unmuting?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Are you muting and
Yes,
unmuting?
I am. When
Why
yes,
don't you
when
try to
Brother Derek
keep
is
it
speaking, I
open?
mean,
Yeah,
I
why don't you try to keep it open? Because it seems like it starts to
okay.
delay when you come in, and if we start hearing feedback, then you can go back to the muting and unmuting.
What I'll do, I would just mute
Okay.
mine and you can just leave yours open, brother.
Yeah,
Apaholic.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see how that works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So what Brother Derek is saying that I can easily build on that. It's the difference between the Pharisees and the they were seen as not holy. Yeshua
Mm-hmm.
says, or Jesus says, I've come to heal the sick and bring sinners to repentance. But all have sinned.
Right.
So it's more the sense of the Pharisees thinking they are the first, they are they know it all, and they
Mm-hmm.
expect to go to heaven. When the
Mm-hmm.
other people who are called lost, they are the ones who actually listen to Yeshua. So they
Mm-hmm.
will actually be they are the last now in our eyes, but they'll end up going as the first. And then the people who thought they were first will end up last, left behind, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You get my
I
point?
like that. I like that. Yeah, I liked it. That was good too, man. Oh man, you guys on fire here. Can I take a crack at it? You guys mind? um,
Let's
you
go.
know, when we talk about the ownership of anything, we think of a title, right? So if you own a car, you need a title, you know, of ownership. If you a deed to a house is a title of ownership, right? A receipt from something that you purchased, right, is really basically your proof or title that you own it, right? So there are a lot of people who will want to own or claim a title to the kingdom, but they are only entitled. They think that they should
Mm,
um have access to, belong to, own, but they are only in have a sense of entitlement without an actual authentic title. And the only way that you can have access to an authentic title is, again, all of the above. You have to choose the narrow gate. You have to be obedient, right? You have to choose life over destruction, right? So those are all of the things that is simple as a requirement in order to gain true title of ownership to the kingdom, access into the kingdom. Like a ticket into a concert or to a show or to a banquet. If you don't have a ticket, you can't enter. So the
yes.
ticket is your title that enables you a seat in the venue that you're trying to get into. Well, it's the same thing within the kingdom. You have to have a ticket or a title that now allows you to not only have entry but access. You know, and so that's the way how I see it. That he's
Yes.
talking about a people who have a sense of entitlement because um of receiving the law, receiving the temple, the sacrifices, right? Receiving the covenant, but yet have not really established a true relationship that only comes through the obedience. What good is it to have what the
Yeah.
Father wants you to do, but you never do it? You know what I'm
I
saying? So
see it. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So they had a sense of entitlement. They were not keeping the Torah. They were not keeping the law, but they felt because it was given to them that's just like, you getting keys to a car that you never use. You never put the key into the ignition. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? They never turned the key in the ignition. They never stepped on the gas, but they automatically assumed to be arriving at the destination.
I would even give you another one on Brother Mike about this. What comes into, if you want to put it in a business sense, it's a child all his life believing that he will take over his father's business, but the father sees a worker who doesn't come arrogant, and he sees his son growing up so arrogant that he's going to take the position. He's not interested in even taking the smaller jobs to understand the business. And he ends up hiring the person who is in the business itself to run the company.
Right. Right. Yeah, that happens so much. That happens so much because the son has a sense of entitlement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's supposed to automatically come down to him, trickle down to him, because of his blood relationship, but not having to realize that he has to have a spiritual relationship. Does he have the spirit of his father?
And the humility to treat others,
of his father, right? Does he has a heart for the father's vision, and that vision would include how he treats people, how he treats the business, how he treats other people, not just show up, in your rich man's shoes, you know what I'm saying, and put them up on the desk or on the table.
Good one.
Right? That's not going to give you, the keys to the company. It's not. Right. Yeah, that's a good analogy, Brother D. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
a
good.
analogy.
So,
Yes.
all right, so we
And
got
that
this.
that analogy,
Mm-hmm.
yep, but that analogy falls into the business, the prosperity.
The prosperity business. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because it's the business. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a famous.
Searching. Could you go to?
There's a.
Oh, oh yes.
Mm-hmm. There's a famous. Let's you read that one and we go. What's the other passage that you still
I was
freezing up?
thinking about Proverbs.
Oh, Proverbs. Okay, yeah, I got a
remember.
list of Proverbs. I got a list of Proverbs.
Oh, okay.
Passages. It might be one of these up here that you might be thinking of. You see it on the list?
Let me go to 15:90.
I have one to add to that, to your Proverbs, but when you're done, though.
All right. So, I mean, here's a passage that is often used, and it is used out of context in the mindset of stinking thinking. That has nothing to do with Yahweh's intended relationship that we have with money. And we're going to see that as we go through the other passages, right? And so, again, we want to definitely discover whether if this is a broad mindset or is this a narrow mindset, in line with the question of the theme, right? So this first passage here is 1 Timothy 6:10, or next passage. And it says, "For the love of money is a root of all sorts of evil. And some, by longing for it, have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." Let's park here a little bit and let's marinate on this one verse. For the love of money is a root of all sorts of evil. Okay, so when we think of a root is what? Something that
root of a
The
tree
base.
foundation.
it's a
Yes,
foundation,
the foundation
right? It's the first part of a that is
gives it
produced,
strength.
right? Mm-hmm. It's the part that saps in the nourishment from the minerals from the soil, right? Right, that feeds.
Gives it strength. Yes.
Right, that feeds.
Yes.
Right. So the love of money is the source of all evil. Of all evil, right? So it's a person's love of the material thing. Let's think about the first sin. We talked about the first sin. The first sin was a temptation of desiring a tree that was forbidden. And It was it, and the thought was that was suggested was, well, if you have access to this tree, number one, you're not going to die as Yahweh says you would, and number two, it's going to make you wise like Yahweh. So what was offered here is something that's so-called in a materialistic way, add to the abundance that the woman already had. She already had abundance. We already established that earlier.
Almost
She was
infinite abundance.
right, almost infinite abundance. She was established in. She was placed in, right? And so, there was, there wasn't anything that that she could have that wasn't, hers.
Already provided, yeah.
Provided. Exactly. Thank you for the word.
A whole
It was already,
planet. A whole
right, the whole
planet,
planet
Brother
was
Mike.
already provided for her. Right. All this
Yes.
opportunity. Right. But the enemy, the adversary, got her to focus on the one thing that she lacked. She took her eyes off of all the abundance that she had and focused it on the one thing that she didn't have. And so it's the scarcity mindset. It's the
ghetto mindset.
Right? Ghetto scarcity, right?
Yes.
And it's the mindset that says, you know what? All this abundance that I have is not enough.
It's not enough.
Right. So there's greed in there, right? There's materialism in there, right? And there's definitely a desire of covetousness, right? For a thing that doesn't really belong to you. And so she coveted something that only should have belonged to God, only should have belonged to Yahweh. And so she wanted access to it. And so as a result of it, it became the root of all sorts of evil that exists in the planet today.
So, Brother Mike,
Wow.
Mhm.
as you're saying this, excuse me, I'm reminded of it's like the snake planted in her what was in him.
Right. Because he was already, he had already crossed that line.
Yes.
Right.
So he was
He
just misery loves company in that sense.
Right. Because when we read Isaiah account, in terms of how he fell,
Yes.
he wanted to be like the Most High.
Yes.
He wanted to extend his congregations into the north.
He wanted to rise.
He wanted the glory.
Level.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
So he instilled in Eve what was in him.
He transmitted it. He had transmitted it right into her through suggestion, through the questions, through the temptation. He transmitted it right into. Now she didn't have to buy into it because it was still her decision if she was going to embrace what he was suggesting. But she bit the fruit before she bit the fruit. You know what I'm saying?
She bit the fruit
Her heart and her spirit was already committed.
And then she bit the fruit spiritually, then physically.
Physically. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. So it becomes the root of all. So when you love materialism, when you love the things that are not for you, or you're not ready for, or you're not authorized for, you love those things, right? Because he doesn't want us to have a love of money. He doesn't have a problem. We're supposed to love him. Yes. Right. Our love should not be driven solely based on accessing or putting our hands on some money. And when it becomes that, and it becomes reduced to that, it becomes the source of all kinds of evil. That's the point that Paul is making here. And he says, and some, by longing for it, have wandered away from the faith. Eve wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. And guess what? Adam wandered away from the faith. You know what he materialized? Heeding to the voice of his woman. Yes. Isn't that the downfall of many men today?
Even men as strong as David.
Exactly. And so away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. right? So it's the destruction.
Gotcha.
It's the destruction that path leads to, right? So
I
this is
get, before you
Mhm.
go to the next passage, Brother Mike,
Yes,
I
sir.
would say it brings into question this.
Mhm.
What should we consider richness?
What do we
Really?
consider exactly? What is
What
true?
socially we should consider as rich
Exactly.
and
What is
wealth?
true wealth? What is true riches? What is true wealth?
What's true wealth? Yeah.
And that is the key. The question is, did Adam and Eve already have true riches before biting the apple spiritually and physically? Did they
Correct.
already have riches?
Uh-huh.
They,
I would say this also that it's a little bit more to do with masculine Monday, so we probably can continue at another time there. But I would say also within a partnership of a man and a woman,
Mhm.
a man could be bringing richness in different ways that she's not aware of, but
Right.
just that is not seen in a material aspect of
Ah,
riches from
aha, you're
society
thinking.
wise.
But
She
that's
believes she's
that's
not
the
rich
point.
and she's not wealthy,
Aha.
but yet she is wealthy
That's
and
the
rich in
point.
many other
Exactly.
ways.
Aha, you're thinking. It's the
That's
entitlement
the point.
mentality. It's the mind.
Yes,
Yes.
It's the mindset of taking for granted what you already have. You already have abundance. Listen, you ain't on the streets. A man chose to cover you. You understand? He chose to protect you. He chose to even
correct,
lay down his life for you if need be. Right?
correct.
You know why do you have to look provocative? Why
Remember,
why do you have
Mhm.
to think as though you're being held back or somehow or you're missing something that's out there? Why?
Correct.
Because you're taking for granted what Yah has already given to you.
And take in mind,
Yes.
it's so
The
interesting
abundance
how
he
the
has
Lord
given you.
mentioned is three things that you only need:
Right.
covering,
Mhm.
food, and protection.
And
If the
protection.
man is already providing that, you're more than rich and wealthy already.
You're more than rich.
But you're
Exactly.
too busy looking at trinkets,
And trinket.
ornaments.
Exactly. Exactly. Brother
Coveting
Rapperholic,
the
you was gonna say something else, Rapperholic?
no, I was agreeing with him. So there, it's covetousness. Instead
Yes,
of
it's covered.
enjoying what you have, you're
Mhm.
sad for what other people have that you think you
Being
need.
content with what the Father has given to you. Right.
Yes, and that's
So
actually
the next
disrespect.
it is disrespect. And
It's
so
disrespect to the father.
exactly. So in the next verse, he says the antithesis. He says the opposite of what he said in terms of the love of money. He said, but I don't want you to have a love of money. I don't want you to have a love of materialism, right? Which is going to lead to your downfall, right? Which is the root of all sorts of evil. He says, but I want you to flee from these things, you man of Yah, and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, perseverance, and gentleness. So these are the fruits. These are the fruits of wealth, the true riches that comes from Yahweh, as opposed to the materialism that the adversary offers, right? The tempter offers. These are the true sources of wealth, right? Because all of these keep you connected to the source of wealth, which is Him. So
Absolutely.
he says, fight the good fight of faith. Fight the good fight of faith to not be drawn away, to be distracted by the materialism, by the shiny bling blings, the trinkets, right? Keeping up with the Joneses, right? The next commercial that came on TV. Stop being drawn away from the latest fashion or what have you. Stop being drawn away. Fight the good fight of faith. Take hold of the eternal life. See how this is connected with eternal life?
Yes.
Fight, take hold of eternal life to which you were called, and you made the good confession in the presence of many witnesses. Again, this goes back to the fact that in the kingdom, through that gate, through that path, there's going to be many. There are many that are already there. So it's not that it's not going to be a
Yeah.
lot of people there. It's not that there are not a lot of people that are there already. It's just that the entrance to it is very narrow. And that will lead even more people that are in there to not be able to enter into it.
The bouncer has a specific instructions who to get in and who not to get in.
It's
Pretty
a
much.
it's a
It's a
funnel.
strict
It's
bouncer.
a funnel. Yes, a
Very
strict
much
bouncer.
so.
Exactly.
It's a strict
Exactly.
bouncer.
Ain't nobody getting past that bouncer.
No, it doesn't happen.
that doesn't come in correctly. Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't come in correctly. Yeah. So there was another passage that you were thinking of, brother.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the passage, but the way I see it, the way I understand it,
Mm-hmm.
is we were given dominion from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Let us make man in our image. Let him have dominion over.
Right.
And he says,
Right.
have dominion over all the earth. That's
Right.
including the richest in the earth. So we are the
Let's
master of money.
let's
We are
let's
the
let's
master of riches.
right. Let's go there. Let's go there.
Genesis.
Since you mentioned it, because I think it'd be good for us to see that.
I know he might upset a lot of people, but let's focus on what Brother Rapaholic mentioned. We give men dominion. Men. Thank you. Thank you.
Emphasis.
Yeah.
All right, so
that's
in
chapter 1.
Genesis, you want to go to chapter 1? Okay, all right, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Hold on a second.
Oh, so what were you doing? I was
Yeah,
talking
I
about
was
chapter
going
1.
to. I was going to no, but we can go. Let's go to 1. Let's go to 1. Let's just say 20.
I think it's 26.
26. Yeah. All right, here we go. You want to read it?
Yes. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. And let them have rule over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the sky and over all the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth.
All right, so what
all
in
the earth.
here? Yes, yeah, that's the question is what does all mean?
So if I take my dictionary, all means all, everything.
Okay.
That's the gold, the trees.
What
Can I
does
stay out of this one? I caused enough trouble already.
what does all include?
Okay, you mean except the gold?
Yeah, what does all include?
All, everything. From A to Z, Alpha, Omega, everything. All of it. It's all given to him to control.
What does all exclude?
Nothing. I don't think there's anything
There's nothing that is
that's on the earth.
including the tree of knowledge and good and evil. It's not that the tree was not theirs. It's just that it was like the tithe. It was like the tithe. It was the one thing that Yahweh says, I want you to reserve this for me. And as long as you reserve this for me, right? Because this principle is found in tithing and offering givings. As long as you reserve this for me, you will always revere me. You will always respect me.
It's a way to show respect. Yeah.
It's a way to show respect. So in other words, I'm going to give you everything because remember when Eve was being tempted, she said that they were not supposed to eat of it nor touch it. No,
the touch wasn't,
the commandment
wasn't mentioned.
Yeah, the touch wasn't in the commandment. So he gave them the garden to keep it. He gave Adam the garden to keep everything in the garden. In other words, to take care of, tend to, right? Manage. But he was commanded to not eat of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. He can manage it, right? But he couldn't eat from it.
But then two things. The first thing, as I said, we are the masters of finances. We have been given dominion over the gold. We are the master of it. So you can't love money more than yourself. You the master of it.
Exactly. So you'll be right. That's so how can money be your master? Right. We've made money into our master.
Yes.
right? When you've been given
And then the
dominion,
second
right?
thing,
It's like putting the, Mhm.
yeah, no. It's
Yeah, go
like
ahead.
putting
Yeah, it's like putting the carriage in front of the horse.
in front of the horse. Yes. So the second
Yeah,
thing I
I
was
mean,
gonna say is talking about Brother Derek. He said he stepped on toes. So let's step on toes as we're stepping on toes. So
since we did,
on
right?
we're there
Oh boy.
already. so
Troublemakers,
so when Eve ate of the tree, nothing changed. So the
Mhm.
commandment was actually given to Adam himself.
Right? Exactly, and that is the true principle of the passage.
Yes,
Is
but
that
I'm not done. I'm not done stepping on the toes.
okay? Go
Uh-oh.
ahead. Go
Uh-oh.
ahead.
So the man has been given dominion. So a woman saying how rich she is actually is it makes no sense. It's not biblical. She hasn't been given dominion. She's been given the position to help her man have dominion, but she herself can't claim to be a rich. I would say an independent woman. I have money now. I don't need the man. So the
Right,
money to share it with. So
right,
as he has it, you get to use it through him. So to say you have the money, you don't need
right.
a man makes no sense because he is the master of the money.
Exactly. Just
Are
as
the
Okay,
he
toes
let
is,
still
just,
there, or
yes, just as he is the master of his woman.
okay,
as he,
let me since
no
since
toes left? So now there are no toes left.
since no,
All
we got
toes,
one more. We got one more,
more toes.
Rapperholic, brother Rapperholic. We have
Okay.
one more.
He got a pinky toe. He got a pinky
We
toe.
got one more. Since that's the case, right? It means that that's the reason why they have wealth and gather materialistic things, but they're still not happy and they're depressed.
Mm. Mm. Hold on a second. Drop the
So
mic.
are they wealthy?
Drop the
They
mic.
might have money. Are they wealthy?
Right, right, right.
But the peace of mind and serenity in their mind is not
And
there.
and I, and the
Not
reason why
there.
I would say, and the reason why I would say that to answer your question that they, yeah, they're not happy because it's out of order. The order of Yahweh is that the dominion belongs to the man, and that the woman becomes a part of that dominion, not the custodian of the dominion, right? She don't become the CEO takeover, of the dominion that is given to the man. She becomes a part of what he had,
Yes,
his
not gonna
domain,
happen.
Correct.
right? And it's spelled out even in the Ten Commandments, because even in the Ten Commandment, it's all the commandments. Period. They're speaking to men. And for
Men.
instance, when the commandment against covetousness is not to covet your neighbor's wife, his children, his slave, his
Yes.
male servant, his female servant, his ox, his cattle, his house, his land, nothing that belongs or is the possession of the neighbor. So everything that's included in his possessions includes the woman. The woman.
Yes. It's
The woman is
dominion.
part of the list of his possession.
Very good one there,
Yes.
Yeah. So
brothers.
and so the reality is that the tempter, ever since the beginning, has been tempting women to step outside of that order. And
Very
so
much
now
so.
in this Western society, women have the ability to be able to be financially independent, right? On paper, right? But the reality is that it doesn't lead them into happiness because it's out of order. It's out of
Yes.
kilter. It's out of balance. And so it leads to all other sorts of evil. Why?
Correct.
Because it is a desire for love for the love of money, or materialistic, or a seeking of independence that the father has never intended. That's just
Correct.
like the child no longer, like the prodigal son. He no longer wanted to be subjected. What did that lead him to? All sorts of evil that became destructive to
He
him.
he messed up bad. He messed up
He
Let
bad.
messed
me
up. Right, right, right.
let me add one more match toe. Sorry for being terrible today.
The last toe. I
Okay.
think I don't know
Not
if
good.
there are toes left, but then the increment of tools is done.
But I would use the background that you have, brother Mike, of the
Okay.
construction hat. Men are
Okay.
said to be architects. We construct, we build, we create.
Right.
Women are spenders. The reason that they create malls because they're spend. They
Mm.
gather the material things, but they spend them. Where men will gather those materials and expand them. As
Well,
an
I mean,
architect.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's two other terms that's used that may be a little bit more prettier. One is a producer, and the other one is a consumer. So men
That's-
are producers while women are
Mhm.
consumers.
So
Thank you for the
if I can chime in-
softer landing there. I appreciate it.
So if I can chime in, so Brother Derek,
Shalom, summer blue fox.
shalom, Shabbat shalom. So
Shabbat
Brother
shalom.
Derek, are you saying you've never seen a female coal miner? You've never seen that.
No,
You've never.
You would see them, but very rarely. Very
Listen,
rarely.
I've
in a
never
mine-
seen,
in a
I've
very
never-
minute.
I've never-
minute.
listen, I've never seen
I
a
would say
female.
very minute because I can't say never because I'm sure there's maybe one or something
In
out there in
movies.
the world.
I've
in
never seen.
movies.
I've never
Maybe,
seen.
maybe. So I don't want to
I'm-
go that broad, but I will say it's a minute for that one.
In
I've
movies, I've seen them. Maybe.
I've never seen a female, right, lift and carrying cylinder blocks. I've never seen a female bail 6 or 7 or 8 pieces of sheetrocks, right? Or a bundle of 2x4s. I've never seen that. Not that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but it's very rare. It's very slim, very few.
I haven't seen
They
it.
they would
seen
rather
it.
work in the office. They would rather work in the office, right, at the construction site, or directing traffic, or want to tell the men what to
Easy
do.
thing. Nails.
Right.
Yes, getting nails done, hair salons, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Easy stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But
okay, easy in the sense of it's not like coal mining.
right. But we digress. Let's get back to the topic. So okay. So the other passage.
proverb I was going to.
Yeah. Okay. Now I wanted to go to, because we did the Genesis 1. So I wanted to go to the second one, because we're still talking about this creation order, right? And this is asking the question about wealth, because the passage that we did two passages ago, 1 Timothy 6, that says the love of money is the root of wealth. A lot of people will misquote the passage because they've been taught through Christendom, right? False religion. They have been taught that money is evil, rather than the love of money is evil. They've been taught that having wealth, having riches, it's an evil thing, and one can only be holy if they divest themselves of any ideas of amassing wealth or riches. And so the idea of amassing wealth or riches or being ambitious,
Brother Mike,
right, to being successful in that regard, it is considered evil by what has been falsely taught. But go ahead, you were gonna say.
So, Brother Mike, as you're pulling up the passage, they're being told this by a pastor. So they're being told this by a pastor that came in a private jet or a limo and who's wearing the best jewelry. Being rich isn't a good thing.
Who, by the way,
be nice, guys. Be nice.
Listen, who, by the way, at the end of his sermon is appealing for their money. Asking
which is all evil. Maybe
he's telling you that
he wants to relieve them of their evil. He wants to help them.
He wants to relieve them of it. He's such a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
Come on. He's starting this airline company. Take it easy, guys.
He's taking one for the team. That's what he.
Yeah, he's so self-sacrificing, right? Look at him. All right, so so Genesis 2, it says this in verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their hosts. So everything within the heavens and the earth were created, right? And then when you skip on down to the fourth verse, it says, "This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that Yah Elohim made earth and heaven. Now no shrub of the field was yet in the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprouted, for Yahweh Elohim had not sent rain upon the earth, and there was no man to cultivate it." So the very first mention of man was to do what? To serve Yahweh, to work his ground. This gives us an idea of what the purpose of the man is. His primary mission is to work or to cultivate the ground, right? To be a farmer, to be in agriculture, which is what the word husband actually means. That's his primary function. And it says, "But a mist used to rise from the earth and water the whole surface of the ground." So that's what existed before Yah sent rain from the sky. He says, then Yahweh Elohim formed man of the dust from the ground. So the very ground that he's made to work is the very ground that he's made from. So he says, "And breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being." So his life came from the very thing, right? Or his material structure came from the very thing that he's sent to manage, right? So, and it says in the 8th verse, "Then Yahweh Elohim planted a garden towards the east in Eden, and there he placed the man whom he had formed. Out of the ground, Yahweh Elohim caused to grow every tree that is pleasing to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil." And he says, "Now a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided and became 4 rivers." So this is significant. The name of the first is Pishon. It flows around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. So I submit to you that this is the very first mention of gold, and it is in connection to the accounts of the heavens and the earth and when man was first made. So he wants us to know that gold, money, the how would you say, the source, the resource of wealth, right, is created around flowing out of the garden. And so he lets us know from the very beginning that this gold, right, is there. The gold of the land is good. He doesn't just tell us that it's there, he tells us that it's good. So this idea of saying that money is evil, well, the historical account of man in his origins doesn't say that. It says that the gold of the land is good. The bdellium, this is bdellium, right, and the onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon and flows around the whole land of Cush, right? So when he made all of this, because granted, all of this was made within the 6 days. Am I correct? Right? Within the 6 days, right? And at the end of the 6 days, this is what he said. Let me go down, and then when we finish, then you can come up, pull up the verse that you want. He says, "And Yah saw all that he had made," which included the gold, the bdellium, and the onyx, right? All he had made, and behold, it was very good. So even the gold that Yahweh made and everything else is very good in his mindset. So money is good. But what is bad about money is the love of it. When you are captivated and led by it, when you are in submission to it, rather than being a master to it. I yield the floor. What do you guys think?
But Brother Lee speaks even to women. Women in and of themselves are good until you make them your master.
until you make them your masters, because that became a problem
Yes.
for Adam.
That's
Because
the
you
same
heeded the
problem.
voice of
Yes.
your woman. Right, right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So all of the material,
Keyword the heated.
right? So
So
all of the material that he made was good, but that
it's
good
good.
it had to be within its proper perspective, you know, and it could not
So
prioritize over.
Brother Mike,
Right, go ahead. Mhm.
yes, I got something. So even the tree of knowledge is good. It's called good here.
It's good, and granted, this is something else here that is said here, and it's oftentimes overlooked when we talk about the account of the fall, right? And we go when the woman is being tempted, right? Um, and this one of the things that drew the woman was this in verse 6. It says, when the woman saw that the tree was good
Good.
for food.
Yes.
So it was edible, it was good
Yes.
for food, right?
It was a
The only
good tree.
problem is it was forbidden because Yahweh says it
Do
wasn't
not
reserved for her, or for her to not for her or for them not to eat of. Right.
put them. So,
Right.
but why I call the tree good? And you could say it's good for food. It looks good, but it's also good in the way you can show the Lord that you respect Him.
Right.
So that's
Exactly.
the other good part of the tree. This is how you show Him reverence by not
Right.
eating because He told you not to.
Right. Just because it's good for food doesn't mean that it's good food for you to eat.
Yes, your
You get that? Like for instance, it's good for you to start an artisan business crafting wood, right? You know why? Because Yahweh has given you the skill to do that. It may not be good for me to start that business because I don't have the skill sets for that.
yes,
You get what I'm saying? It's
yes, yes.
good. It's good for a man to wear clothing that pertains to a man, but it's not good for a man to wear clothing that pertains to a woman.
Yes. Although the
Ouch,
woman's
ouch, ouch.
clothing isn't bad.
Right. Nothing's wrong with the
Yeah,
woman's clothing. It's good for its intended purpose. And that's the key.
yeah,
When
Everything
utilizing modesty.
yes,
exactly. Everything that Yahweh made has an intended purpose. So once you take it out of its intended purpose, it no longer becomes good.
yeah.
Mhm.
Also
Yeah.
speaking to in of itself, it's good. Until you flip and it becomes your master, then it's no, then you're actually in the wrong. But the money hasn't done anything. You
Yeah.
can't choose.
It
It's not
hasn't done
allowed.
anything. It's an inanimate object, right? It's
Yes, yes,
it's an idea, but
I
don't let
would
that
treat it
idea.
the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I would treat it the same way as I would utilize again the background from you, brother Mike. I would say it would once again be like a tool. Is how we decide to use that tool. We
Mm-hmm.
can use it for good or we can use it for bad, depending on what we want to utilize it for.
Exactly. You can build a house, or you can take someone's life.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So it all depends on what you're using it for,
yeah,
right? So
yes.
purpose, and that's the other thing too. You know,
Yeah,
that he points out that there was a purpose for why he created the man. There was a purpose for why he created the woman. There was a purpose for why he created the vegetation. There's a purpose for why he created that. Everything had a purpose. But once you start taking things out of its intended purpose, like a camera has a purpose. But if you use a camera as a tennis ball, you understand you're taking it out of its intended purpose, right? Like a camera is not intended to be a football, right? So yeah, it's not going to be a good football, right?
oh, when you find
You breaking up, brother.
out that it's not the purpose.
Right, 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 right. All right. So, what was the other scripture that you said you had?
it's Proverbs. So there are actually two of my favorite, especially the second one. But the first one, say but it says I think it's the blessing of a rich man is a strong city,
Okay. So blessings,
something like that. But the is a strong city,
blessings for a rich man, or of a rich man.
something like that. But it I think it's a strong city. That's how it ends. And the curse of the poverty is the something like that.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you get a chance, you find that one. If you can Google for it, you can search for it. We'll get it. What was the other passage that you had?
The other one is Proverbs 22 verse 29.
22 verse 9 or 29?
29 verse 29.
All right. So yeah, it says, do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. All right. That's a good one.
Do you get the tie-in? Do you get
Right.
the tie-in?
Do I get the what?
The tie-in to the prosper. So how to prosper.
Yeah, if you want to expound on it.
Yeah, so I would say following Torah makes you focus in on your skills. You have to be as the best because you're working for Yah. Actually, that's the mindset. You're doing this for the Lord. So do it as best as you can, and you will end up even before kings and not before
Right.
obscure men.
So
So,
if
but
Adam,
this is the utmost prosper.
right. So if Adam was more focused on cultivating the ground than he was heeding to the voice of his woman, what would have happened?
He would have stood before the king, as he actually already did. He just lost the ability to stand before the king.
This Lord, right? He forfeited. Right,
Yes.
exactly. All right. So here's another passage, Deuteronomy 8:16.
Okay.
He says this. He says, "In the wilderness, he fed you manna, which your fathers did not know, and that he might humble you, and that he might test you to do good for you in the end." So the humbling and the testing and the eating of manna and dependent on manna was good for them in the end, and it was a test. Verse 17 says, "Otherwise you may say in your heart, my power and my strength and my hand made me this wealth." So he put Israel into a situation where they were in a wilderness. They were not providing for or planting their own crop. They weren't harvesting crop. They had to totally interdepend upon the hand feeding of Yahweh, apart from their own efforts. And that's how he fed them for 40 years. Why? Because he didn't want them to get the mindset, as it says here in verse 17, to say in their heart that their power and their strength made them wealthy. So he did this for 40 years to let them know who was the source, or what was the source of their wealth, the true source. Verse 18 says, "But you shall remember that Yahweh your Elohim, for it is he who is giving you power to make wealth, that he may confirm his covenant which he swore to your fathers as it is in this day." So how can people read the Bible, say that the Bible is, even go as far as say that the Bible is God's word, Yah's word, right? And then come to the conclusion that Yah has no desire, God has no desire for his people to be wealthy. Brother Derek?
Makes no sense.
Okay, I would say the reason why people come to that conclusion, many people do not read it. Some people are just attend services and read what they read. And also because people place sermons and words to let them believe that it's okay to be in the state that they are.
No, going back to the question of the topic at hand,
So,
let's
but
put
Brother
that.
Mike,
Let's put that.
Brother Mike,
Yeah, go ahead.
wait. Yeah. Could you go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 12? That ties in a mix. Just perfectly.
28 verse 12. Okay.
Yes.
And it says, "Then Yahweh will open for you his good storehouse, the heavens, to give rain to your land in its season, and bless all the work of your hand. And you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. Then the Yahweh will make you the head and not the tail, and you only will be above, and you will not be underneath, if you listen to the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim, which I charge you today to observe them carefully."
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If he is the one giving power to get wealth, so how
So
can
here's
it
the
be
question.
evil?
And here's the question too that ties into that. If everything he created, right, and he saw after he created and made it, it says, and he saw that it was good, right? What about his commandments that he gave? Can we say that the commandments were intended to lead to that which is good or bad? Because what is the result?
So the commandments,
What is the result of following his commandments? What would the commandment make Israel? It would make them the head and not the tail,
the head
above
and not the tail,
right,
not underneath.
and not
Yes.
exactly, and not even be blessed, right, from all the work of their hands. It would open up his good storehouse, right, and it would give rain to their land in the seasons. They wouldn't suffer famines. They wouldn't suffer droughts, dry spells. They wouldn't experience that as long as they did what? Listen to the commandments of Yahweh.
Listen to the commandment. Yes.
And observe them carefully. Observe them carefully. Right. So that is certainly the purpose for why the commandment in and of itself is so that Yahweh's people can be wealthy and rich. That's the purpose of it. That's the purpose. Can you see that? Can you see that?
Absolutely.
Okay. How about this one? Let's go to a psalm.
Definitely.
Psalm 112. Psalm 112 says this: "Praise Yahweh. How blessed is the man who fears Yahweh, who greatly delights in his commandments." So now we're talking about this commandment stuff again. What is this commandment stuff going to lead to? "His descendants will be mighty on earth. The generation of the upright will be blessed. Wealth and riches are in his house, and his righteousness endures forever." So the question is, wealth and riches in line with righteousness, or it's in contradiction to righteousness?
It's in line with.
It's in line with righteousness. So it couldn't possibly that money is the root of all evil, right? It could only be the love of money, the submission to money, is the source of all evil.
Yes.
I would have one for you there, brother Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
Proverbs 22:2.
Okay. All right, here we go.
I think
Proverbs.
it brings us directly back to the question of what we started with.
Right. I'll start with verse 1, and then I'll go to 1 and to 2. It says, yeah, a good name is to be more desired than great wealth. A good reputation, right? And good reputation only comes by keeping the commandments.
Yeah.
A good name is to be more desired than wealth. Favor is better than silver and gold. So that's the integrity aspect. It's the integrity is what keeps you in the true wealth that Yahweh wants you to walk in. When you step outside of that integrity, seeking to be materialistic, seeking to love money more than that which is good, right? It tarnishes your integrity. It tarnishes your good name. It flips it. And so you have to desire having a good name more than you desire having great wealth. The wealth is going to follow. You know, he's already promised that the wealth follows keeping the commandments and obeying him.
Very much so.
Right.
It's no reason. Right. It's no reason that they utilized to tarnish somebody's image prior to taking away their wealth.
Right.
When we see it in society itself, when someone decides to be outspoken, first they destroy their integrity, who they are, then they remove everything else that they believe they had as wealth.
Exactly.
Meaning, trinkets and ornaments.
Exactly. I mean, didn't they do that with our master, our Messiah, Yeshua? You know,
there you go.
They sought to destroy his name. You know, they called him a wine bibber. They called him a false preacher, teacher. They said that he was being influenced by Beelzebub, the prince of demons. You know, they had all of these scandalous accusations against him to tarnish his name. You know, as a takedown, as an attempt to ultimately take him down, take down his ministry, stop him, silence him, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And it says the rich and the poor have the prince. Yeah, well, let me read that the part 2. The rich and the poor have a common bond. Yahweh is the maker of them all. So yeah, he makes rich people, but he also makes poor people.
Yes.
He's the maker of them all, but he has to be Lord over both the rich and the poor.
Very much so. That's the key one right there. Very much so, brother.
He remains the master.
And the 21 and the Proverbs 22 and 1 can be linked up with the Proverbs 28 and 6.
Okay, 28 and 6. Okay, hold on a second. Proverbs, and I know Brother Rapperholic got one too. 28 and 6. Better is the poor who walks in integrity, in his integrity, than he who is crooked, though he be rich. I like that one.
The name.
I like that. The name, the integrity, right?
Yes.
Reputation, the good credit score.
There you go.
The good credit score. Right, it's your name. Rapperholic.
The one I was thinking of is Proverbs 10:15. That's the one I found it. Proverbs 10:15.
Proverbs 10:15. The rich man's wealth is his fortress. The ruin of the poor is their poverty. So, based on this verse, is it saying that wealth can be a good thing, or
it's saying wealth? A bad thing? Yes, it's a good thing, and actually, poverty is a bad thing. Is what it's alluding.
Right. So, in what way is it saying that wealth is good, and what way is it saying that poverty is bad?
So they use the word fortress here. In other places, in the King James it says it's strong city.
It's a strong city, right? So what is a
So
strong city?
it's tying to Deuteronomy 28. You will be lending to many nations, but not borrowing from them.
Okay,
That's when you're wealthy.
right. But what's the specific purpose of a strong city, a fortress? Why did people build fortresses? Why do nations have
But so
borders?
the fortress, yes, for protection. For
For
protection.
protection, right?
Yes,
So a rich man has protection because he has wealth.
he has wealth. He can protect himself.
A
A
poor,
poor
a
man
poor man
is
doesn't have the protection, and so it leads to his ruin. Think
it's
about it.
open season. Yes,
Think about it. If you can't afford medication, for your sick son, what could possibly happen? You could lose your son.
yes. Sadly
So,
enough, yes,
so the poverty has led to many people's ruin. You can't buy a lawyer. You can't afford a lawyer, right? You
yeah,
can't afford to get something to eat, right?
yes,
Right. So yeah, you can't
Correct.
afford a tool, right? So you can't even begin to work or plant. You know what I'm saying? Because of poverty.
That's why I would put it as that when you have
even
we have a sense of riches, you can be a self-sustained person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When
A
you
good,
don't have
good
anything,
riches.
you
A good
can't self-sustain. You're then dependent.
right.
And when you become
yes,
dependent, you become willing to go with anything because you're
Exactly.
in need.
You'll be desperate. Right.
Yeah, when you're in need, you will do anything.
Exactly.
When not
Exactly.
in need, you're able to stand on your own.
Exactly. 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 Good point, brother. Very good point. Did
what I
we
was
do
going
did
to
we do
say,
did we do Proverbs
what I was
10
going to
4?
say,
I have verse 4 on here also. Go ahead. Mhm.
yes. But as we go to four, I was saying you have wealth, give inheritance
Mhm.
to the next generation, so the next generation can piggyback of what you have done and then bring it to higher heights. But if you have nothing, then they bring nothing to
Mhm.
higher heights. That's impossible.
Exactly. 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 Verse 2 says, ill-gotten gains, right? Do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death. So there's a profit in righteousness, while there is no
Yes,
profit in ill-gotten gains. You may have amassed the money, right? You might have amassed the property, but ultimately you will not profit, right?
I think we've seen it so many times in society that we see people have a big name because of what they gather. But you
Mm-hmm.
have this brother who is locally
Mm-hmm.
who has this integrity that is unfazed
Right.
by even though he doesn't have all that, but he has such a strong integrity by the community, by the
Right.
people,
Right.
strongly that even if you come there, you say, "Hey, I got all this money, I'm a wealthy guy," it's not viewed the same way.
Right.
He's able to sometimes even go to places where the wealthy men can't go without security.
Right. Yeah. One of the differences between
yes,
the wealthy and the poor is that the wealthy are not afraid of losing what they have. You know why? Because the wealthy, and I'm talking about the true wealthy, they're not afraid of losing what they have because what they know they can gain it back and even more so. Whereas the poor, because of what they do not know, what they already have, they are afraid of letting it go.
There you go.
So
Perception, yes.
perception, right? So they will sell their
yes,
souls to keep what they got. They will fight, they will kill, to keep their 57 cents.
yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to go in even further is
We, we didn't read it. We didn't
if
read the
you're
first.
actually wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the fourth verse. Okay, yes.
Yeah, it says,
Oh, okay. That I can finish. I can
here we
finish.
go. Yeah, three. Yeah, three. Let me just read 3 and 4. It says, uh,
Okay, yes.
Yah will not allow the righteous to hunger, and he will reject the craving of the wicked. He says,
Mm,
poor is he who works with a negligent hand, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. He who gathers
and
in the
this
summer is a son who acts wisely, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who acts shamefully.
Shamefully.
Yeah.
So this ties into the diligent worker standing in front of kings.
The
If you,
diligent,
yes,
right? So again, you're talking about integrity in terms of your work ethics, right? Planning, working in advance, having a vision, having foresight, not being lazy.
yes,
Yeah, this touches on those grounds. But so you were gonna go somewhere else from here?
yes. What I was going to say is, if you're an actually prosperous and wealthy person, I would believe the mindset you would have is not to have too much fear of losing the wealth,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be more fear of, I would say, not pleasing the master. You get the idea?
You say it again because you paused out a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would say it's not fear of losing the wealth, as you were saying. So I'm just going in a bit more as to what you were saying. So you don't have the fear of losing the wealth, but you have a greater fear of displeasing the Lord.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, yeah,
You get me? So
yeah.
that's the focus. So it may seem
Mhm.
like you're not afraid of losing the wealth, but that's not the focus. The focus is pleasing Yah, pleasing God.
Right. Now notice this. I heard Dr. Myron Golden make this point. He talked about the contrast between the servants that were given the talent in Yeshua's parable of the talents. You have the one that was given the most, he was given 5 talents, and then the one who was given the least, he was given only 1 talent. The one who was given the most was so fearful of the master that when the master returned, he doubled
Yes,
what he had. Right. So he
yes,
committed to increasing what his master gave him. Right.
yes,
Whereas the one that was given the least, right, he didn't fear the master to not be productive enough. What he did do is he took the very one uh uh talent that he received and he hit it in the ground. He became fearful and he sat on it. And so that's the difference
yes.
between the two. Like, the person that's given more, that's more wealthier, you know, they may very well have a mindset to be more responsible. Whereas the person who has little, who's poor in his thinking, right, will be wasteful. That will sit on what he has, will not be diligent, will not plan ahead, will not have a good work ethic. And
Mm-hmm.
what's the ending result? What he has is taken from him and given to the one
Taken
that's wealthy.
from him.
Right. So this is how wealthy
That's
people capitalize on poor people all the time. Because of the difference in mindset. Right. Yeah. The difference in
Yes,
It's a
mindset.
yes, yes,
mindset,
yes.
definitely.
Yeah, the difference in mindsets. Right.
And again,
Sure.
you see how close they are to each other. It's the tree of life and the tree of knowledge.
Mhm.
Just a small difference, just a little
Mhm.
adjustment.
Right. Exactly.
You know what came to my mind also that you mentioned that the mindset of the rich to the poor is, I would say, something even simple as land. Some of us live in lands that are rich with natural resources, rich with beauty.
Right.
Instead of we thinking of developing, creating our own business and taking an opportunity of that, we don't do that. But we have people who come from other places and see the beauty that we have and utilize it and build up a resort. And
Right.
then you end up paying money for the same land,
Yes.
for the same
Right.
view that you had all your life.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
that and that
And then they build guardrails around it. You can get into the land you
Exactly.
had
Yeah.
before.
You gotta pay now you gotta pay for the
they don't
same
pay them to get in.
view you were seeing all your
Yes.
life.
In your
Yes.
neighborhood. Right. In your
Yes.
neighborhood.
Exactly.
Yes.
In
Yes.
your neighborhood. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, in the Genesis 1 that you took us to, Brother Rapaholic, there's something that he says here that's key. In verse 28, he says, Yah blessed them, and Yah said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply." In other words, and fill the earth. That's a commandment. The other part of the commandment is to subdue it, right? So, what does this word "subdue" mean? And I think it's important to define that word.
If,
Yeah, go ahead, define it.
as I brought before you go to it, I'm gonna say be its
Mhm.
master.
Be its master.
Bring it to fruition.
Yes. And okay, so let's look at the definition. It is
Let's see if I'm correct.
yes, you are correct. Strong's Brown's Dry Vigor says this: so to subdue is to bring into bondage,
That's
become the master of. Right.
Yes.
So to become the masters, become the master of or over. So man is commanded to become a master to what here in this particular passage?
To all
So,
the earth.
all to yes, to fill and
Yes.
master the earth. Right.
All the
So
earth.
it's
Yes.
the one who sits back and not seeks to try to master land, master the earth, right? Is the one that's going to be left in poverty and will not be the one that'll be wealthy. The wealthy one is the one that's seeking to amass land and master it. Amass minerals, amass
It's the
resources.
shameful son.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a definition that I definitely want to pull up on the screen.
Solid.
Is let's define this term. The three terms. The first one is, let's define rich and wealthy. Rich means having a lot of money or valuable possessions, while wealthy means the value of all the assets of worth owned by a person. Break that down. Rich could be that you own a lot of valuable things like cash, money, gold, right? You can be rich in hitting the lottery, right? You can become rich overnight, right? That's rich. Or a high salary, right? You can, get hired on a job and get a high salary, or you can get a high paying contract, right? You do the job, you get paid exuberant amount of money, right? So that can make you rich. But the difference between that and wealthy is the value of all the assets of worth owned by a person. So it's a sense of ownership of something. And it's the ownership of assets. So let's look at what assets mean. Assets means this. It is assets are resources with economic value that an individual, corporation, or country owns, controls the expectation that it will provide a future benefit. So the asset is the ownership of something, of resources, of a thing that will provide future income. That's different from owning a large amount of money, because you spend up all of the money, there's no more. But if you control and own the asset, it will continue to be the goose that's laying the golden egg.
Yeah. So
there's a difference between a golden egg than from owning the golden egg than from owning the goose.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
So can I dig into that?
Yeah, dig into it.
Yes. So so because the Super Bowl was, I was I want to take the show. Yeah. So because the Super Bowl was not long ago, I'm gonna take a football analogy. So if all of the players are rich, and
right, you're breaking up.
But
yeah, he's breaking up a lot today. You there, Brother D? Oh yeah, you broke up. You said all of the players are rich. Go ahead.
All the players are rich, but the people, because they own that's what you're saying?
are wealthy.
Yes.
Right. So the owners of the team are wealthy, but the
Gotcha.
players on the team are rich. Right.
Or the rich ones.
Mhm.
Okay.
I would
Right.
Then I
put
get
this
it.
as this other way too. What it makes it a little bit more closer to some people. Some people grow up in areas of different parts of the world, and they move to other places that they believe are much better and to gain wealth, but at no time they think of where they came from. Because if they develop where they came from, they will be much more richer than the place that they actually went to gain that wealth.
Mhm. Mhm.
Meaning, if you grew up in a small, let's say, rural town, you leave to go to a bigger city.
Mhm.
Now you already had an idea of starting a business. Now you gain that amount of money. You take that money and you send it back to where you're from to develop and create that business. You end up being more wealthy than a person in a city that you came to work for.
Yeah, that's
So
so
you're
true.
developing the land
Yes.
itself. You're working smarter, much more
Yes.
creatively.
Right.
The best I
Right.
would say, like the people who are
Yeah.
going to the Dutch colonial place, they should be
Right.
sending it back to Suriname
Yes.
to develop that, start
Right.
To
businesses, help
develop.
their
Yes.
people out, not
Right.
stay over there and help Netherlands get better.
An asset is something that you can own that will give you future benefits, while a job or a pile of money um only gives you a sense of ownership as long as the money lasts or the actual thing is in
So it's short
existence.
term versus long term.
Exactly,
It's short term versus long term, and it's not continuous.
exactly.
Because you
Because
here's the
I
other,
feel that you know your place more than anybody else.
and there's no sense of ownership because you can't sell your job.
No.
You
Mhm.
And
can't,
no one
It's
can't
can
just
sell,
like these
inherit
people
your
who
job.
left. You
right. No
know,
one can inherit your job, right?
when
And
when
that's
they
Yes.
leave, when
right.
they leave, nobody knows your town better than you do. You know,
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
so
Yes.
let them build
Yes.
a
Yes.
resort when you see the resort before they did.
Right. Right. So, fellas, what is it that we are saying here today? Let's go back to the question of the subject at hand. What is it that we are saying today in answering the question? Is the narrow way a way of poverty? Is
The answer is no.
the way is the way of riches a broader way or a narrow way?
The answer to this would be it depends. It depends on if are these riches your master. These riches are your master, then you're in the broader way. You're done. But if you're the
Hmm.
master of the riches, then you're in the narrow way.
You're in a narrow way, right? Because most people are at what level? They are at the poorer way, right? So most people are poor. Most people are not rich,
Yes.
right? In
Yes.
terms of
Even
in
though they have a
material,
lot of money, yet still they're
right?
poor.
And not even in a lot of money. Just most people, materialistically and uh, how would you say, from a wealth
Spiritually.
perspective, in terms of owning and spiritually, are not there.
Yes.
That's why most people are going to lead to destruction, and that is a reality. So definitely, this wealth versus poverty is a gauge that we can sort of look at between um, knowing whether people are truly poor or they are truly rich. It's an indicator. It's not the only indicator, but it's definitely an
It's one of
indicator.
them. Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are we saying here that all independent women are on the broader way?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I
Okay.
and I can show a passage that proves that.
Oh boy.
Right. Found in this question first. Uh, does does poverty lead to righteousness in Yah? So does being materialistically poor
That's
lead
a
to righteousness in Yah?
no, sir. No, sir.
Say that again, brother.
That's a no, sir. That's a no, no, no.
Oh, that's a no. Okay, okay. Yeah, the passage that
I would agree with that too. I would say materialistic things push you more further away because you start to believe you're your own God. You know,
Right.
you're your own person. Yeah, you don't need anything.
So the thing is, it's not whether if you're poor or you have a whole lot of materialist thing. It's your perspective on those things.
Yes.
Correct.
Who is your master? Yes.
Who is your master? Right. Show enough. Right.
And even more when you have wealth, you have to do your best to always have that humility.
Exactly.
What it's
That's
very hard to do when you have the ability to purchase or have a lot of yes people around you, pretty much.
that's your perspective, and and this is the reason why it's so important to have this perspective in terms of who was the owner of the garden and who was a worker in the garden. The owner ultimately we know is Yahweh, but then there was
Yes.
this sub owner. There's the CEO, right?
The CEO.
That is Adam, right?
Yes.
But then there's a worker, and that worker is the woman, right? So here, this is what we see here in second 11. It says a woman must quietly receive instruction with entire submissiveness. So Eve received instruction from Adam because the
Wow, what a
commandment
powerful reading.
it wasn't given to Adam. It wasn't given to Eve. It was given to the woman, right? And it says, hold on, somebody, yeah. Strange Time says God owns everything. We are just stewards. This is so true. So true, brother. So he says, but I do not allow a woman to teach or to exercise authority over a man, but to remain quiet. So Paul says he doesn't allow a woman to be in a position of authority over the man, nor to teach the man. She's supposed to be taught by the man or a man, and she is to be under the authority of a man, right? He says, for it was Adam who was formed first, created, and then Eve. So he takes them back to the order of creation to support what he just said, that he doesn't allow a woman to teach or have authority over a man, right? He says, and it was not Adam who was deceived, but the woman being deceived fell into transgression. So she fell into transgression, and this is the reason why he doesn't allow a woman to teach her to have authority. He says, but women will be preserved or saved, right? That word saved, through the bearing of children if they continue in faith and love and sanctity with self-restraint. So discretion. So in other words, if a woman through faith, right, and love and sanctity and self-restraint submits herself under the authority that is given to the man over her, guess what she's going to have? She's going to have salvation.
Salvation.
A woman needs a man's covering in her salvation process.
Yeah. To prosper. Yeah.
There you go. That's where it comes to being boss chick and being depressed
and this
being
is
unfulfilled.
Exactly. So this is answering the question: can she be independent?
That's a no.
That's
sir.
a no. That's a no, sir. No.
Exactly. She can attempt to be, but what is it going to put her outside of? It's going to, number one, it's going to put her outside of the gate that leads to life.
She's outside of the fortress.
She's outside of the fortress.
Yeah, she's outside of the fortress.
And everything provided in it. She's out. She steps outside of it. And this is
with
the
barbarians, basically.
And going back to earlier, this is the reason
a barbarian.
Why. No, I said she's with the barbarians, not the barbarian. Yeah.
Oh, she's with. It's the same thing.
With the barbarians, yeah, with the barbarians. Yes.
And this is the reason why Lizzo, Lady Gaga, all of those women that are independent, this is the reason why they're not happy.
There's a lack of peace and a lack of serenity within their spirit and within themselves.
Right. right, right,
So,
right.
brother Mike,
Definitely.
you're going into
Yes, sir.
something very powerful. So, according to the Bible, a shameless woman shall be counted as a dog. That's
Hmm.
ecclesiastical. And if you
Mm-hmm.
read it's Revelation, it says, for outside of the fortress are dogs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking he's
Which is
talking
what,
about the shameless women, independent women, the
of course.
boss chicks.
I mean, that's the same figure of meaning that Yeshua says to the this I believe it was a Samaritan woman when he says that he's not to give the crumbs to the dog. Not wasn't Samaritan, but it was the Gentile woman in
Yes,
terms of giving her the crumbs to
to
the
the
dog,
dogs.
right?
Yes,
Because she wanted from him, which
yes,
was that which is for the intended for the children,
for the children.
right?
Yes,
Right, right. And so, what is that a picture of? That's a picture of the fact that when a woman seeks to be independent of Yah's will, especially of his will and how he designed for them to be and where he designed them to be, they put themselves as a status of a Roman wild dog, a stray
as a
dog.
dog, a stray
Yeah,
dog. Yes.
yeah. So the term bitch has a lot of meaning to it, right?
Yes.
Has a lot of meaning to it. A lot of meaning. Yeshua used it, right? He called the woman a
Well,
dog. He
Yeah.
called her a
if I
bitch.
want,
Yeah.
let me add one thing to that stray dog mention that you put there. Stray dog, what it is? It's
Mm-hmm.
usually lack of cleanliness.
Mm-hmm.
It also
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
has no home. It has no resting place.
Right. Right.
It has to, and when it comes to food and its nourishment, it doesn't know where it will be from day to day or time to
Right.
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Trash
So
And
cans.
that's the lack of nourishment of having the
yeah.
Lord in their life.
So it's unstable.
It's
Very much so.
unstable.
It's unstable.
And there's this long list of dogs that have slept with them.
Mm, 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 mm.
The dogs always have a long list of men behind
Right.
Becomes
them
wild.
trying
It
to.
becomes a
Right.
wild dog. What's very
Yes.
Right.
dangerous also.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 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 Wow. Wow. It's a lot of meaning in that.
Yeah. Yes. And this is the opposite of prospering. You cannot prosper with such a woman.
Cannot
You
prosper.
cannot.
And
Cannot.
granted,
You
metaphorically, this
can.
also reference to men too. When we step outside of Yah's will, we become like a dog. We become like the woman,
Yes.
that is seeking to be independent. We're seeking to be independent of our master. We become
Correct.
stray dogs.
Also,
Self-destruction
yes.
always.
Yeah,
Very
to
much
our
so.
instructions. Yes, yes.
Become
So,
like a sense of unstable nomads, basically.
right. So, question, final words. What could we say out of this, gentlemen?
Well, for me, the final words would be the gold of that land is good. So to accumulate it is you're accumulating a good thing.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
good to be poor. You can't move actually in
Right,
poverty. You can't
right.
grow. You can't
There are
plant. There's no
there are
vision.
benefits. There are benefits to having wealth.
Yes, you can do. Why have a vision? You know, if there's no gold in your vision, most visions I think are invalid. You have to
Hmm.
have there has to be gold somewhere in your vision.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And you're not evil for being inclusive.
No, 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 no.
Right. What
It is a
makes it
good thing.
evil is preferring the materialism, is to preferring the gold over submitting to Yah's will.
Yes,
That's what
making the
makes
gold your master. That's not good.
making the gold your master. That's what makes it evil. So that path is a very narrow path, which is why most people are poor. Most
Yes,
people, right, right, spiritually and materialistically, right. Ah,
absolutely.
so true. A lot of wisdom, brother D. Final words.
For me, I would say that they need to understand that the Lord is not doesn't want you to be poor, but rich in understanding, in His word, in His submission, in
Mm-hmm.
His blessing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do not be focused more on a materialistic aspect of things that are carnal needs. Be
Right.
more consider with our more spiritual and a much more richness.
Yes.
And many times when we sit down and see what is around us, we're more richer than we believe we are.
Right. Right. That's right. That's right. And definitely, and I would definitely add to that with the Good Samaritan who helped the man who was beaten and robbed and left for dead, while the Levite walked past the same man. But the Good Samaritan, the thing about him that made him so beneficial to that man who was a victim was the fact that the Good Samaritan was wealthy, or he had means, because he owned an ass to put him on. You know, he had money to be able to pay the innkeeper. You know, he had the resources to say to the innkeeper, he had a reputation where he could say, put it on my tab, whatever else that he needs, give it to him. When I come
He had
back,
integrity.
I'll pay for it. Right. So you can only do that through reputation, a good name. Right, through a good name. And so that's the benefit of being wealthy Yahweh. Right. Being wealthy Yahweh.
Can I add to that?
Yes, sir.
To look at it from God's vantage point. So let's say you're a father, you might my brother Derek. You're a father and you have a son, and you give him something. Let's say you give him a car or you give him $1 million. It doesn't matter. You give him something. So then he takes this $1 million and he says, "Thank you. Now I don't need you anymore. I'm gonna enjoy this money. Now I don't need you." How would you, as a father, react to such a thing?
You'll be hurt. You'll be infuriated.
Yeah.
You'll be disrespected.
Yes.
You know, like yeah.
For me, I would be disappointed, and I would have felt like I did not provide the right values that I should have provided them prior to that.
Yes,
to giving them that well.
That's a good point, because as a human father, you would begin to think, well, where did I go wrong?
Yes, maybe I taught him wrong, but there would certainly be wrath in your mind.
Oh, certainly that comes down the pike for sure. It comes out the pipe, for sure.
So I guess that's how God reacts. He gives you wealth, and now you act as if He doesn't exist. Of course, there's anger going to be.
Right, rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Righteous anger in this case. Yeah.
Rightfully so. Well, gentlemen, I would say that this is certainly have been a meaty, sound, wealth contained, fruity, all of the good things that you can label it.
A wealthy live stream
for sure that you could put in it, you could put on it. You know, I really enjoyed it, man. It was just, I mean, we can go on forever, but we don't have forever right now.
That's the thing. Yeah, so, that's the limit.
Yeah, definitely. But I enjoyed you guys, and I thank you for helping me out with this discussion today. Brother D, could you close us out in a word of prayer?
Yes. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us to having your discussion and speaking your word. Thank you for sharing with people that there's only that narrow way, a narrow door to get through to you, Lord. To understand that doesn't matter if we are considered poor or considered rich, that having humility and the seekingness of your gifts and your blessings is key to everything. That when we provide for others, and we do good with your stewardship. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Good prayer, solid prayer. Yeah, well, thank you, brothers, and those of you who were in the chat, Brother Manilow, Summer Blue Fox 87, and definitely Brother Strange Times. Thank you for adding to the discussion today. And for those of you who are watching, those of you who see the playback, you like this content, we encourage you to do like it and subscribe if you never subscribed to the channel. Definitely don't keep that love to yourself. Share this stream with a friend, or encouragement to those of you know who need to hear a message like this. And until then, we ask that you just continue to keep digging in the word. And for the King and Kingdom, we will bid you shalom.
Shalom.
Enjoy the rest of it. Yes. Shabbat shalom.